Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cruise Corner podcast. My name's Will. I'm the editor of Cruise Show News and one of your hosts.
My name's Jack. I am group editor of Water Cruising and Cruise Trade News.
And I'm Rashmi Narayan, one of the new members that's joined this lovely podcast with Will and Jack, and I am the staff writer.
Brilliant. And thanks so much for joining us today, guys. Now, we've also got a very special guest on today's podcast. We have Shelby Woods, who is our podcast producer extraordinaire, someone who, without, we would not have anything here. Most of the time that you listen to us, Shelby is frantically working behind the cameras to make sure that we all look good, sound good, and our guests are at ease. So, Shelby, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's so fun to be in front of the camera.
I can imagine a bit of a change of pace, but as you can probably see, Shelby is producing this episode as we interview her. So thank you again. So as we turn the year, we really wanted to jump on today and give you a bit of an overview of what we've got planned for this year, while also looking back at some of our highlights from 2025. Now, I'd love to start with you, Shelby. Now, as I say, you've been behind the camera, you've seen everything that we do here, you've seen all the great guests we've had on, you've made sure they've all felt really comfortable. So from your sort of perspective from behind the lens, it's very easy for us to say our highlights since we've been putting together all the scripts and interviewing these people. But from your perspective and everything that we've done, what would you say some of your highlights have been from 2025 and the first iteration of the podcast?
I mean, so personally, it's been really nice to get to know the industry a lot better, especially because I am going to these events all the time and I'm interviewing people and filming people. And I think it's nice to be able to build connections with people in the industry. So that's been really cool to have from this podcast. I've also really loved getting to hear about people's career journeys and how they're balancing their professional life with their personal life, because I do feel like the industry is very demanding. So I just realized these are still in my head.
Yeah, I think, one of the key things we found with this podcast issue, which you touched on just then, is that when we started this, it was all about getting messages across and making sure travel agents and cruise line professionals are well equipped to sell holidays, and sort of diversifying how we reach our market. We've got the magazine, we've got the website, but it's quite nice to have the podcast as well. And one of those key things that have come out of this is all those personal stories that we found, which have been brilliant. I mean, just off the top of my head, one of my favorites was talking with Hayley Moore about balancing parenting with being a senior executive, and getting that insight into industry is excellent. And with podcasts as well, as we say, it's a different way for us to reach our audience, and it gives us this opportunity to speak about these different angles. Now, Shelby, you're really experienced with podcasting, and I know you're a fan of a lot of podcasts as well. So for someone listening to this now, what advice would you have when it comes to podcasting? Maybe, not just listening to it, but what are some of the benefits of maybe starting your own podcast, or, listening to more podcasts?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think podcasting is such a nice platform, I guess, to consume content, because first of all, easy on your eyes. You don't really have to be looking at a screen to consume it. You can listen to it really anywhere. So if you're cleaning, if you're driving, it's just a really convenient way to learn or be entertained, make a chore go by faster. So that's what I really love about podcasts. Plus, I feel like you get to use your imagination a little bit more, thinking of what the conversation is looking like, or picturing a scene somebody is describing. I think the benefit of creating your own podcast is, for like SEO purposes, for example, if you're trying to get like a content series started, it's a great way to get people to find your website easier, find your videos easier, whatever it is that you're trying to look for. And also it's a very, it's not that hard, actually. Like, I know the setup looks very complicated and everything, but it really is. It's once you get the hang of it, it's super simple. It doesn't take very long. And, I don't know. I just feel like it's a great way to meet new people, get them a little more comfortable instead of just being right in front of a camera and having them read a script or look at you behind the camera and repeat something and say like, okay, answer this question. That can be so daunting. I feel like sitting down in this style and having a conversation, especially if there are no cameras and it is just an audio based conversation, then people feel a lot more at ease.
Yeah. I like how conversational it is and how we have guests. We've had guests on this podcast who we've interviewed many times over for the magazine or for online, but rarely do we really get to kind of see their personality shine through. And I think this is a great way of educating our Asian listeners or watchers on new cruise ships or new itineraries, but it's also a chance for people to kind of like share their own personal stories, as you said, but then their personalities, and it makes for an altogether more engaging listen.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And I think, in the world of B2B, there's so much information out there, especially in the cruise industry. And it's quite nice to break up a little bit. And some of the conversations we have with our guests on the podcast, obviously we touch on, brand messaging and touch on, the stuff that's really important when it comes to selling more cruise. But some of the conversations that we've had nothing to do with cruise. And it's just such a great way to get your personality across. And especially, you touched on there, Shelby, in terms of if travel agents are out there and thinking about starting their own podcast or something similar. In the world of travel nowadays, personality and being an individual is so important. And people who are booking holidays trust individuals that they know. They get inspiration from people they know, friends, family. So putting yourself out there as a real person and not just someone behind a screen or someone behind a desk at a travel agency would really help to, get more people through the door and, build those lasting relationships. Which is
Absolutely.
What would be your sort of 3 top tips for getting started for any agents who wanted to launch something similar for their own database?
Oh, okay. 3 top tips. I would say make sure you have a solid understanding of your brand. How are you trying to come across? What is the audience that you're trying to reach? I think that's like one of the most important things before you launch any sort of channel or anything. The second thing is I would say outline the episodes you want to do, even if it's just the first 3, get them all done and have a backlog of episodes ready to go. That way, if you're booking a guest for one episode and they cancel last minute, you're not freaking out trying to get content, because especially when you first launch something, it is so important to be consistently posting and consistently uploading. That's what's going to get traction. And then the third thing I would say is, I would say don't skimp out on good equipment. And that doesn't mean you have to spend like a ton of money. iPhones, we do use an iPhone when we record our podcast. Like they have good camera quality. And if that's something you already have on hand, that's great. But I would say, it makes a difference. The quality makes a difference. People take you more seriously when the quality is good.
And I think it would help you as well to have that quality. It sort of makes you feel as if, this is a genuine, professionally produced thing. I mean, it's absolutely fine. As you say, we use an iPhone and some of the episodes we're balancing it on a box to make sure it's got the right angle. Things like that happen. But to be able to have the proper equipment, really sort of levels it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. So, taking a look back at where we've come from then, we launched last summer. It's been a hectic time for the industry, as we know. Really positive book of momentum across the board. We've had tons of guests on, which is great. It felt at the start it was quite tricky to balance everything with what we're doing, but we really got into our flow with it, I feel. And Jack, obviously you were a key part of this. So looking back at 25 and also a little bit ahead to this year, what have been some of your highlights, would you say?
Oh, there have been loads of highlights. I think back immediately to our very first episode with Paul Beale and Steve Odell of Regent. They came into offices for the premiere episode of this podcast, and they had a really interesting conversation around sort of the emergence of brand partnerships in cruise, which I think has been a prevailing trend for all across the industry, regardless of what sector. I mean, we've seen it. Crystal Cruises are a great example of how they've utilized brand partnerships in the luxury sector to kind of bridge the bridge land and cruise, the familiar with the unfamiliar, especially for the new to cruise market. Whether that's with Nobu and Beef Bar and the PGA Golf Championships. I think it's emblematic of like the direction cruise is heading in terms of the strides it's making to reach new customers all the time. And that was quite a unique and quite different conversations to kind of we typically have with cruise lines. So it was great to kick off the podcast in that way. And I loved your episode, Will, with Andy Harmer from Clear, which was recorded out in Svalbard at the Expedition Showcase, which again, really unique, a really incredible setting. But I mean, Expedition is just grown and grown and grown this year. I mean, I shared a panel at the Expedition Cruise Network conference in the autumn, and it was great to see so many new agents in the room, people who had never sold Expedition before, but were so engaged and so interested in finding out more about that sector. And so getting to hear from Andy, obviously, who's a bit of a celebrity in this industry, as we know, but he's so knowledgeable and he was so giving with his time. And it was, it was great to be, could we call this an international podcast now?
Absolutely. I still think it might be the most northernly recorded podcast ever. But I mean, I can't corroborate that, but I'm going to claim it.
You can. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I don't think there's many podcasts that record in wearing slippers either. So it was an interesting one. But as you say, it's just that's just another door we have with just podcasts to be able to do these things in amazing places like Svalbard. And again, just going back to your point about recording podcasts, Shelby, I did that on my phone, resting up against a coffee mug, and you can still make it work. It really didn't take that much time, but yeah, absolutely. And
that's something we want to do more of in 2026. Like we're always getting out and about at ship visits or conferences or visiting agents and cruise lines and in their head offices wherever they may be. So we want to take our microphones with us out on the road and go to where you guys are, as well as you coming into our studio here in North London. I would say another highlight of mine, probably to end on one, was my interview with Ambassador Cruise Lines with Karen. She was great at just sort of really drilling down into the importance of sort of clear pricing and affordability. I mean, affordability is going to be a really key trend next year. Yeah. And they kind of went into really great detail about how important pricing structure is and making that really clear so audiences can really quickly grasp the value of cruise. Because as our industry report from last year revealed, there is still a perception that cruise isn't as affordable as a land-based holiday. Whether that is true, whether that's not, I mean, that's up for debate. But I think we know that the cruise industry needs to do more, needs to work harder to get that value proposition across. And so it was interesting to have a conversation with Ambassador Cruise Line, which pitches themselves as the affordable cruise line, to learn about what they're doing to drive that point of value home, especially given that they had just recently launched into the Caribbean, which, as you know, isn't a budget destination by any stretch of the imagination, but how they're bringing the affordability argument to the Caribbean. That was really interesting. I think if you didn't listen to that one, go back to that. I think there's lots of really interesting bits that agents can take away from it.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're completely right. It's definitely, we're always looking for unique lines with these episodes. And I think that was a really interesting one. And one that, as you say, if you go back, listen to these episodes again, they're not time sensitive. It's tons of information that's really good. And their new season is kicking off soon. So yeah, absolutely check that out again. Rashmi, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, we did introduce you back at our cruise summit where you interviewed a few of our attendees and delegates, which was great. Now, obviously, you've also hosted a couple of episodes, which will be coming soon, in the next few weeks and months. Is there anything you can tell us about those at the moment? Is there anything that people should be looking out for?
Well, I think it's going beyond what I understood as cruising, because, again, very new to the industry. But one thing what the podcasts have helped me understand is there's so much more to it than what I understood from, for me, it was just ocean cruising. But I sat back on one of your episodes, Will, with Amber Waterways, and then learned how rivers having a moment. So that was another episode I'd say, please go back and have a listen, because it Will talks about other places you can sell in terms of river cruising, not just what you have in Europe. But looking forward, it's adventure touring that's having a moment as well. So your land-based excursions, we're already seeing a trend of why a lot of ships are having longer days on port and longer days at port, and why people need to spend more time at a destination to truly immerse themselves and understand it better. So Titan was one of them. And I had the joy of hosting my very first podcast with them, because it's interesting to talk about why land-based tours are equally important. You do have time on your ships and all of that, but also the sense of place, a sense of understanding. It just rounds off your cruise holiday more beautifully. So yeah, we have Titan coming up, which you can reiterate more on. Yeah,
absolutely. Can't wait to get that one out. It will be coming live in the next couple of weeks. We've got a nice series with Titan, which was brilliant to put together, and really excited to bring you that one. And it sort of, links in really well with another trend that we're predicting is going to be quite popular next year with the cruise and stay market. Now, this is something that I think a lot of people have identified, and definitely something we want to elaborate on further with our guests in the new year, open the door to to people beyond the cruise industry per se, and people who've got the perspective from the shoreside holiday market and how that can work with the cruise industry. We had a great opinion piece go live on CTN of the week from Tom Morgan from Travelsphere and Just You, who said that holiday is more than land or sea. It's about how you can put these two things together to create these really, lifetime memories. Because I think that's what people want from their holidays now. Gone are the days, I hate to always bring it up, but post-pandemic, it was very much a case of just get me away, get me wherever I can. Don't, worry about the price. I just need to get away from home, get out of the country. Whereas now people have evolved from that. And now it's okay. I want to make sure that when I've got a couple of weeks off for, this might come towards the end of traveling, I want to make sure I'm having these rich experiences, and combining a cruise holiday with destination just opens so many doors to what you can do. And Titan, our episode's touched on that brilliantly. So really excited to hear those. So keep an eye out for them. They'll be coming live in the next few weeks.
Just to add to that, I think what's also going to be really interesting as land and cruise becomes more popular is how the wider consumers from every different background starts to view cruise. I think cruise has always been seen as this sort of little club at the side, as a small segment of the travel industry, and cruise lines and agents have been sort of trying really hard to get more travelers to that corner. But I think what we're going to start sort of seeing in the next 12 to 18 months is cruise try and pitch itself as a leveler with land-based. It's part of the wider holiday marketplace, not just this separate thing, not just this separate entity that's trying to recruit new people. I think the way forward for cruises is going to be to try and get people to see that a holiday at sea is part of a wider landscape of holiday types. And it's something you might do rather than cruise being the holiday you only do exclusively. It will be something that maybe more people do over maybe every 2-3 years, as opposed to something that much fewer people do exclusively, if that makes any sense. So I think having more people book a land and cruise style holiday, it's going to open doors to the new to cruise and land-based sector, but it's also going to make people going to sort of see cruise as a parallel with safaris or city breaks, all these kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, those destination experiences is really what sets cruise apart. And it has done for years, being able to visit those destinations in one. So pairing it up and spending a few more nights here, or I should say doing a safari and then tying it with an expedition cruise, or a city break, tying it with a river cruise, or a luxury spa break and then going on a luxury cruise. It's all these tie-ups and brand partnerships that we've explored throughout the year. And I think it's going to be even bigger in 2026 this year. So, and just, another trend which almost links to this and something you mentioned earlier with Crystal in terms of those brand partnerships is these big brands that are now identifying cruise as the next big thing, which is excellent. In 2024 and 2025, we saw the likes of the Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, these huge luxury hotel groups launching cruise lines, which is brilliant, which is really good for the industry. And obviously 2027 is the big news that Celebrity will be launching onto the river, which, we're all really looking forward to that. But before that, we've got Trafalgar and Nat Geo also launched onto the river. And I'm sure we'll see loads more big brands sort of looking at cruise thinking, actually, this is where the growth is. We've already seen a lot of big partnerships, Regent with the Aston Martin Formula One team, for example, or MSC with sponsorship of Chelsea and F1 and these huge names. And I think we're only going to see more of that. And
well, even Celebrity, because I had the joy of being on Celebrity Excel not very long ago. And even there, they reiterated how River is having a moment. So I think it's definitely where the future is going. And I think coming back to your point, value is something people are looking at, because as you also rightly said, well, we've gone through that whole circle of post-pandemic where people have been everywhere, seen everything. But now we're looking at wave season, cost of living crisis. So you are hitting different markets, different budgets as well. And I think in terms of value, what I was very intrigued by is what Morella was also doing. We also had them as one of our upcoming episodes, so something to listen to. But it's very interesting things that are being launched in the cruise sector, like all-inclusive calculators, so people have that transparency as well when they're booking a cruise. There's no hidden costs and what they can expect that can be a surprise on their holiday.
Yeah, well, I think that's the point. I think cruise lines that focus on reducing those hidden costs as much as possible are going to be the ones that get the highest level of trust,
Yeah.
and the highest level highest repeat rates as well. I think travelers are kind of really wise to nickel and diming, and that's why I think price transparency is going to be really important in 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a piece that we take a closer look at in our upcoming issue of CTN as well. And we look at some new price transparency laws implemented and now being actioned on by the CMA and the ASA, which is going to be really pivotal for the industry. It's not something that cruise has been directly impacted by, but from some of the movement and some of the rulings that have been made against hotel brands and other leisure operators, cruise could be next in the firing line. So keep an eye out for that in CTN January. And in terms of the rest of the year, whatever may happen with the cruise industry, wherever it may go, we'll be there to cover it and possibly record a podcast. But as we say, we'll be doing a lot more podcasts on location. We've got loads of trips lined up, which we'll definitely look at doing some episodes overseas and on cruise ships. We'll also be at the events in the cruise industry, our events, the Cruise Summit, Cruise Stars, Wave Awards. We've got a great new schedule of cruise challenges this year as well, which we'll be reporting from. And of course, whatever launches may come, I, for one, am on NCL at the end of March, which I can't wait for in Miami. So there'll be tons of content around that. So thank you all for listening to our first episode of 2026. We have tons and tons and tons of stuff planned for this year, and we can't wait to bring you all along with us.
Cool. Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Cut.